Well, we have with us Mr. Kulin Lalbhai, ED of Arvind Limited, and we're going to talk with him about the recovery in the apparel space. What is the importance of the digital channels at this point in time? He was talking at the Retail Leadership Summit. Thank you so much, Mr. Lalbhai, for talking to ET now. Just to start with and understand, the festive season is behind us, the festive quarter is behind us. Despite the festival sales, a lot of companies clogged in losses. So, of course, it's not back to the pre-pandemic levels, but what are you seeing in terms of the recovery and also in terms of the footfalls that you're witnessing?
I think the good news for the sector is that the recovery seems to be kind of resilient and holding up. The beginning of the recovery was during that Diwali period where generally the market had come back to 70% plus of last year's recovery. And I think every month that goes by, the recovery of the market is going up by, 5-6%. So in a sense, I think the customers are coming out now much more in the market. And for this category, it is very important that some level of normalcy returns, that social interactions return, because the end use of apparel is not only for day-to-day utility, it is also to, for people to wear clothes when they are out and interacting. So I think as time progresses, we are seeing normalcy come back. And we do expect, overall recovery to keep strengthening in the months that that are to come.
So in that case, can you help us understand that now which are the segments that are doing well? Is it still that casual wear is picking up? Because traditional, at least the festival high and the wedding season high is kind of behind us. But what are the segments that are picking up? And do you think office wear will also start picking up now that if people have to go out? Because of course, there's again a scare of increasing cases. So there is uncertainty for sure. But what does it look like right now?
So when we were a couple of quarters back, I think casual wear was the only category selling. I think it is not the case any longer. I think the categories around the festivals and informal wear are recovering. I would say that they are still lagging behind comfort wear and casual wear because those categories are in very high demand, especially from the digital channel as well. But more and more people are going back slowly to offices, whilst the percentage of the density in offices is still lower. But I think people are going back to offices. So I believe we will see a gradual recovery. In fact, in quarter one, it's likely that even the marriages and the occasion wear will also pick up because a lot of the marriage dates this year will start from the April-May month. So I think that category will also see improvement in the months to come.
Right, so talking specifically about digital, at the Retail Leadership Summit also, you spoke about how important a huge part it became for retailers because that was a more preferred channel for a lot of customers. And probably it's become a habit for a lot of customers. How strong do you see the digital channel going forward for the industry as well and for Arvind as well? Of course, you have also made leaps and bounds. You already had a structure in place, so it had helped you during the pandemic as well. So going forward, how do you see the digital channel, the role of the digital channel going forward? Do you think people are going to come back to stores and, just get back to taking things in their hands and buying them? Or it will be important that online sales will continue to grow?
We are very big believers of an omni-channel world because in a soft lines category like apparel, there will always be the fun of touch and feel and experiencing the brand in physical. But more and more consumers will be engaging with the brand digitally. And for convenience, also shopping quite a bit digitally. And this was the trend even before COVID. World over, the share of digital is growing every year. In most economies, it has reached in the mid to high 20s of total retail or branded products sold do come from the digital channel. So I think what COVID has done is accelerated that. It was anyways a very, very strong trend. And any brand today needs to communicate and serve the customer seamlessly between online and offline. We are very big believers. We have been investing in our digital and our omni-channel capabilities, and so have all progressive retailers and brands. So I think what you will see is that with COVID, the acceleration is there. If it would have taken us 2 to 3 years to reach a certain percentage of sales coming from digital, as an industry, probably we have preponed that by 2 to 3 years. So that's what COVID has done, because a lot of customers who were not the early adopters of e-commerce, especially in smaller towns in India, have gotten on to consuming digitally, and people are getting more and more comfortable. So I think the digital change which was there has dramatically accelerated.
Right. So just to understand also for the industry, there were a lot of cost cutting measures that had to be undertaken because there was for 2 quarters or so there were no sales through your offline channels at all. Do you think going forward cost cutting will continue to be a major theme for all the companies, or is it necessary to still cut down on stores or not, or expansion going forward from here is the trend that you have to catch on to, because people have again started stepping out and they need new fresh clothes, new merchandise has to come in. So what will be the focus going forward? And if you can also give us some idea for Arvind, I understand you're also on your silent period, but if you can give us any indication on that front.
So let me keep the answer to the market dynamics. I think whenever any sector is facing this kind of structural challenge where overnight revenues crash by 90%, you have to take very drastic measures. So I think everyone in the industry had to take very strong calls on costs this year. And it was a 360 degrees, whether it is rentals, OPEX, supply chain costs, people costs. I think across the board, there was very large structural cost savings and cost cutting. And I think a part of that was limited to this year. For example, any brand cutting on marketing or getting rental waivers when the pandemic was going on. These are temporary in nature. Those costs would all come back and almost are normalizing as we speak. But there are always certain cost efficiencies which get unlocked in times like this. So there will always be some permanent cost reduction that most companies have been able to achieve this year. And I think a lot of those cost savings can continue. Coming to your question around network, I think network expansion in a country like India will continue. Whilst in large urban centers, there were cities that would have 30, 40 stores of a single brand. Maybe tomorrow, because of digital, you might need only 20 stores. But India is expanding massively when it comes to the consumption base of this category. There are so many new towns opening up. Most premium brands are only present in 200, 250 towns in India. The comparative number in China would be 1,500 towns. So I think every branded player in apparel would have a expansion strategy in small towns, in new towns, new geographies, and that will continue as we recover from this crisis.
But sir, when we see the retail categories, it seems like the apparel category has suffered the most. The others saw some recovery, especially because if you compare with electronics, consumer durables, or anything to do with what makes your home more comfortable. Do you think that pre-COVID level will come anytime soon? And how do you see it in terms of the traction? Because going beyond those pre-COVID levels, I mean, growth was the plan going forward, and then we had this whole year where we were pushed back by a bit. So how do you see it going forward in terms of getting that pre-COVID level and then going to those levels where your sales discounts may probably not be as important when it comes to the same store sales growth that you may see?
I think whilst most people have started living a more normal routine, I don't think people will get back to the same level of social interaction, mall visits, multiplex visits. Still, the perception of safety is back. And I think in every country, what is being seen is that last 10% normalcy will come when enough people are vaccinated and feeling safe. So the belief is that as we go through the next couple of quarters, one will continue to see gradual improvement, but a complete recovery does depend on people feeling completely safe. I think digital will keep growing on a large base, and that will help the overall growth to come back. But I don't think every single channel will become normal till enough of the population is vaccinated. So we do expect, I think, in the second half of the year, you should be able to see a growth coming in.
All right. So second half is when we might see a better situation. So lastly,
I'm talking about growth. I'm talking about growth on the year before last, because you cannot use last year as a growth. If you use last year's base as a growth, then the industry will be growing from next month. I'm talking about
That's right.
pre-COVID level growth.
2019 is a better measure. Right, sir. So just to understand, how are the raw material cost pressures on the manufacturing side from cotton and yarn, and is that still continuing? And also, are increased fuel costs also adding to the pressure in terms of the transportation and logistic costs that might be going up?
The larger pressure the industry is experiencing is on raw materials. I think what happened is that for almost 8 to 9 months, nobody ordered anything from the manufacturing side. And then all at once, all the inventories had to be replenished and refilled because there was a good festive demand. And I think the industry, the manufacturing side, is not able to take such a big spike in sudden demand. And that's where it has led to supply chain bottlenecks. And we do believe that these bottlenecks may continue for a couple of more months. So I think there is a temporary pressure that has come on the raw material side on in the supply chain. Whilst, of course, the petroleum prices would affect logistics costs everywhere, I think as a percentage of the total cost of the business, it's the raw material cost inflation that will be more felt than the petroleum inflation.
So, sir, has the cost inflation been passed on to customers yet, or we'll see that probably
I think we will
few
see
months
it in the seasons to come. It is not today an extremely material number, but you will, in my opinion, you will see the industry passing on a lot of this, cost in their prices.
All right. So, thank you so much, sir, for talking to ET Now. Thank you for taking the time out after your session.
Thank you. Thank you.